All right, here we go. So, my name is David Walton. I am the event and programs manager for the Tompkins Chamber, and I want to thank you all for being here today for July's Networking at Noon as we take a deeper dive into the hospitality and service industry and gain some insights from some experts in the area. Before we begin, I want to give a huge shout out to our sponsors, CFCU Community Credit Union, the Hilton Garden Inn, Sheldrake Point, One Step Coaching and Consulting, and Sharaba Walker. Without them, we would not be able to provide this content for the Networking at Noon series. Just a little intro about what we're going to focus on today. While COVID-19 isn't impacting all industries, the tourism and hospitality sector has experienced the most impact to date, giving increasing travel restrictions, major event cancellations, and overall risk aversion to travel internationally and domestically, a little bit we were talking about before. And even while navigating through the immediate impact of reopening in phase 4, it's time for us to also think about the future and recovery planning here in Tompkins County. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our panelists. To my right, I have Ms. Terry Tarshis, Ms. Peggy Coleman, Mr. Fred Bond, and Mr. Billy Oshland. I know that originally we were supposed to have Mark Campanella with us today, but Mark had another engagement that popped up. So in his stead is the general manager of Chow and Boatyard Grill, Billy. So with that said, I'd like to turn it over to Peggy for some introductions.
Thank you, David, and hi, everybody. It's good to see everyone and at least see your names if I don't see you personally. I am Peggy Coleman. I'm the VP of Tourism and Community Relations for the Tompkins Chamber and Visit Ithaca. And I have been in the tourism industry for 33 years, and I'm excited for this conversation.
Awesome, thanks, Peggy. Next, let's throw it over to Fred Bond.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Fred Bond. I'm your regional director for the Finger Lake State Park System. Kind of full circle here. My first paycheck that I ever received was lifeguarding at Teganic Falls State Park. So it's gone a few circle there. Spent a number of years, a couple years down at the Chamber of Commerce and the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Just to frame it for you, we're a region that covers 10 counties in the Finger Lakes region. And last year in 2019, we welcomed 4.3 million visitors. 1.6 million of those were to Tompkins County. So happy to be here today.
Pleasure to have you, Fred. Next, let's throw it over to Terry Tarshis.
Hi, everyone. It is very nice to see so many faces. And I have, let's see, I'm the general manager of the Hilton Garden Inn, downtown Ithaca. And I've been in the tourism industry for 23 years. It makes me feel kind of old to say that. I spent 4 years as a travel manager with Baker Travel here in Ithaca before I transitioned into the hotel world. And I have had the last 19 years enjoying the hospitality industry from the hotel perspective. Mainly in college towns, and I've spent a good portion of it in Ithaca market itself. So nice to see some faces from way back when, and nice to see everybody I work with now.
Awesome, thanks for being here today, Terry. And last, to round us out, our fourth panelist, Mr. Billy Oshland.
Hi, thank you for having me to be part of this panel today. We're sorry that Mark couldn't join you. But yes, I'm Billy Oshland. I'm the general manager of both Chow and Boatyard Grill. I know most of the faces that are here today. I have been with the company for a little over 15 years, working with Mark, and in the hospitality industry and working in restaurants, a little over 31 years.
That's fantastic. Thank you for being here, Billy. So just a quick reminder before we get started here, if you have any additional questions or wanted to follow up with something that one of our panelists shares today, if you could please put that in the chat box. Time allowing, we'll have some Q&A at the end of this, and we'll be able to respond to some of those questions that people may have or some additional insights. Again, we've put together a great panel today with some people who represent the different industries here around tourism and the service industry. So we're going to jump right into our questions that we have. And the first one is, given COVID-19's global impact on our economy, what do you see as the biggest challenge to your industry's recovery, and how are you adjusting your business tactics to overcome this challenge? Let's start with Terry. Let's hear your perspective on that.
So to our industry, for our market, our industry, it's really, we're very higher ed mindful, and having the lack of travelers coming to us, whether it's corporate, whether it's group, whatever it might be that our higher ed brought in, that is it's our industry's biggest challenge right now, in how do we fill that void and allow our community to still feel safe with travelers coming in. So for example, right now we're filling that void with leisure travelers, and our community is very, best word to use is they're on the edge of their seat, waiting for what are these travelers bringing to us. Will these travelers bring higher positive cases to our community? So that's the biggest challenge right now. And with that comes, sometimes it's a social media challenge, sometimes it's an education challenge, sometimes it's just asking the guest that's walking in our door to wear a mask challenge. So that challenge in itself has a plethora of others that just spoke off of it.
Thank you, Terry. I'm gonna throw it over to you next, Billy.
Okay. For our industry specifically, I think we have a couple different fears. We have a couple challenges. One is customer fear about going out. Are they going to be safe going to a restaurant? Most places that can do outdoor dining are succeeding in that, where indoor dining is still failing. And we're just trying to provide the safest place possible for people, and more so that they just feel comfortable. Labor force, and that's a challenge for everyone. It's not just our industry, but our industry specific. It hit a lot of people who make the minimum wage, or the servers that make tips. That's all having a giant impact on people. So yeah, the customer fear part, and just trying to provide outdoor dining and trying to provide the safest element for people to just come in and dine. You know, we're trying to do different things with them, trying to market to people, just trying to say we're still here for you.
Awesome. Thank you for that insight, Billy. Mr. Bond, let's hear from you on the park side.
Yeah, thanks, David. I think our biggest challenge, quite honestly, has been managing demand. We have been really busy with our facilities. You know, park attendance is linked closely to the weather, and we've had a beautiful summer. And so our facilities, the new cleaning protocols, some of the protocols we have for density reduction or limiting the number of people coming to facilities for a period of time has been challenging. We've had to close off areas, but then quickly ramp right back up. So as we were getting into COVID, all of our campgrounds were closed, our playgrounds were closed, but then very quickly as we came into Memorial Day and shortly thereafter, everything opened up for us. We still have a limitation on the number of large groups we can hold, 50 people and fewer for use of in our pavilions. But, you know, managing the cleaning protocols, managing the crowds, face mask compliance, I've just got to hand it to my staff. They've been absolutely awesome. They've embraced this, and creative, positive attitude. I'm really fortunate with our workforce.
Yeah, and thank you, Fred. I just want to point out, with having the parks open since this all kind of started, I know that it's been kind of a strain, and you guys have been right there on the front lines and doing a really good job of making spaces available for people to just get outdoors. I know for me personally, having two small human beings trapped in the house for the past 4 or 5 months has been difficult. But believe it or not, my family now has become, I won't say avid, but we definitely have been taking advantage of a lot of the trails, and we've been going on hikes and bike rides, and we did a bike ride as a family on the Cuba Waterfront Trail. So thank you guys for all the hard work you've been putting in. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, the governor made it a real priority and understands the link between parks and quality of life and economic development. So we've been busy in a good way.
In a good way, in a great way, actually. All right, Ms. Coleman, let's bring us home on this one.
All righty, David. I think for us, the overall biggest challenge for the hospitality and tourism industry is the travel restrictions that are being placed on not just the state level, but also national level. We normally would see a lot of Canadian visitation, especially at this time of year. And the fact that our borders are closed is really impacting our community. The other related challenge is still the restriction of group sizes. We obviously want to keep our community safe. All of our residents and our workforce have done a stellar job at we are rule followers, we are other embracers. So we've been wearing masks, we've been social distancing, we've been taking care of each other. And so to open our safe universe to others, that's the related challenge, is we need to balance the messaging that we're sending with keeping our local residents comfortable and confident that we're not putting them at risk either. So it's kind of a three-legged stool in my perspective.
Awesome. Great perspective, Peggy. All right, so the next question I have for you guys, what actions are you taking to ensure that your business is ready to get those leisure and business travelers that Terry talked about back now that all of New York State has moved into phase 4 of the governor's reopen and recovery plan? Let's start with Fred on this one.
Sure, thank you. I'm going to be a little bit of the outlier here. We've essentially at Parks been in phase 4 since Memorial Day. It has been all hands on deck, fully staffed. Our campgrounds have been open. We opened our swim beaches on time. So what we've been working through is on the demand side and making sure that our operational protocols are meeting the needs and demands of the COVID era. We have required space at our beaches. We have to have blankets and towels set 10 feet apart. We have one-way hiking going on with our gorge trails at Watkins Glen and Tremont and Buttermilk to encourage social distancing. So we've really worked very creatively and really hard to make our spaces as safe as we can for the public. And we've also seen very strong travel, both from in the region as well as from outside of the region. When we do our license plate surveys, people are driving 5, 6, 7 hours to find some place and space at a state park these days.
Okay. Peggy, let's hear from you on this one.
Well, while we were on pause, we couldn't go silent. As a destination, we needed to make sure that everyone remembered we were out there and we were one of their favorite places. Our visitor profile study identified that more than 72% of our visitors are repeat visitors. And so that was an absolute gift to us as we moved into reopening in New York Forward. So we began with inspirational messaging until things started to open. And then once they started opening, we kept the inspiration, but we needed to share and educate our visitors about how to visit our community safely. What was our culture here in our community? The importance of even outside wearing masks if you couldn't safely social distance at least 6 feet. And then the additional piece was keeping on top of who was opened, who wasn't. If they were opened, how were they operating in a different manner? Between knowing the requirements and protocols for dining, what was happening in our lodging partners, how they were keeping their guests safe in their hotels and B&Bs and inns, as well as the extra components of the craft beverage industry, our wineries, breweries, and cideries. Everyone was doing things a little bit differently. And so we needed to, our team has done a great job on keeping on top of all of that information. And then we did just reopen our Teganic Falls Overlook Visitor Center. We've had to reduce our hours because we have reduced staff. And so we're now operating Thursday through Monday. And to be able to operate that and have a safe communications plan to share with visitors. Normally, pre-COVID, we would have had 2 people staffing that visitor center. Now we actually have 3 because we needed to have that extra step in place to have someone not quite as a gatekeeper, but outside the door before people entered that space to ensure they had their mask coverings, et cetera. And it's working really well. And I have to say, I'm very grateful. The visitors that we've engaged with have been very compliant and cooperative and appreciative that our team has been there, not just at the visitor center, but through the chat feature on our website and through email and phone calls to help guide them through this process.
That's great. Hey, Peggy, I'm going to go off script a little bit. How have the numbers been since the visitor center opened back up at Teganic? I don't need exacts, but I know that that's one of the most popular tourist attractions here in town.
It absolutely is. We're so blessed to have these amazing state parks here, and that we have 4 of them is really unbelievable. Our visitor numbers on the weekends are close to where we would normally see. They're still healthy. You know, we're only open Thursday through Monday, so definitely we see a slowdown on Mondays, but that also gives us an opportunity to get caught up more with some of the other work that still needs to be done.
That's awesome. Really glad to hear, and thank you guys for reopening that back up, Peggy. I know the community appreciates that. Let's go to Billy next.
Okay. Things that we're trying to do, we're trying to just follow the regulations every day as everything is changing. Just last Friday, new regulations came out saying that we couldn't serve alcohol unless people were seated at a table or at the bar. Yep. So just trying to keep up with all the standards as they're changing as much as possible. We're doing 50% capacity of seating inside. Outside dining, we're trying to provide as much as possible seating. Everything is spaced apart as much as possible. Trying to provide the 6-foot distance rule or barriers in between as much as possible. Even with our bar setup, we've had to go and change that. So we have just a couple chairs and then 6 feet apart so that people can sit down comfortably. We're also trying to maintain that if somebody else tries to go up there or try to get a drink or gets too close to a table, we're trying to talk to customers about trying to keep their social and spatial distance away from other people at the same time, so that people who are dining are trying to keep are comfortable. Other things that we are doing is paper menus for everyone, or QR codes, so that we can try to save some trees by not going through so much paper. That way they're not reusable. Heavy sanitation. We have busters going around that are just sanitizing tables after people have gotten up, or chairs for the bar and the tables, just to provide that extra level of comfort. Besides having signs up all over the place, maintaining that people wear masks when entering the building or anytime they're not seated at a table specifically. We're doing individual packets of condiments for salt and pepper so that no one else is touching everything that somebody else has already touched. And trying to do as much marketing as possible. Trying to say that, yes, we're being safe about things, still trying to keep in the back of people's minds that you can still go out to eat and you can still be comfortable.
Yeah.
And we know that a lot of other people are trying to do all that at the same time. And we're just trying to stay on top of it so that we know that our industry is being hit like other states, where hopefully we don't go back to a 25% rule or be shut back down to only takeout again.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that you guys are persevering through all this, Billy. Terry, let's hear from you to round out this one.
Sure.
Oh, actually, Terry, I'm sorry to cut you off. Peggy posted a really good question. Billy, do you find guests are using the QR codes, or are there more preferences for the paper menus?
We find on that's more of a, trying to put the right spin on it. It's most people actually want the paper menus. We're seeing a lot more of like the millennial generation that definitely has the cell phones in their hands. They're like, oh, we'll just pull that up right here. So it's definitely, some people just still want to hold that menu, see what's on the wine list. So right now it's about 25% of the people are using the QR codes. We're hoping as we try to implement that more, that more people will switch off and just use that.
And now while I have you, I was going to ask, have you still seen a large number of people placing orders with takeouts and to go as we're making the transition?
Yeah, mostly for Chow, they're still doing a fair amount of takeout because it's also a limited capacity seating. So we're seating less people inside. And we don't have any outdoor dining. So that's a little tougher for us up there, where Boatyard has the grand outdoor seating surrounded by the lake. Takeout at Boatyard has definitely increased more than we used to do. So people are still feeling that they want to stay home, they want to be safer and get the pickup for the food.
Okay, but just to let people know that you are offering all options right now.
Yes, everything on the menu. Yeah, dine in, outside dining, and as well as takeout. And then now that we can do alcoholic beverages to go, also people can have their whole experience, but take it home with them instead.
Awesome. All right. All right, Terry, sorry to cut you off. Now we're back to you.
Sure. So we never closed. We're a little bit like Fred, where we've been in phase 4 for quite some time. And we just evolved every single day at somewhere between 11 and 1. Kelly and I were watching The Governor for, I think, like since March. I honestly don't know, but that's what we did every day. And we took notes, and how did we interpret that? What did our other sister properties, how did they interpret it? We called the chamber, and we just kept evolving. Best practices. Sometimes it would be a guest making a suggestion because they had been somewhere else. They were an essential traveler and they'd been somewhere else. Sometimes they were a medical professional that made a suggestion. We were wearing masks and had mask signs on our doors before it was a mandate, because that's what we felt most comfortable with, and we wanted, being in the hospitality industry, our guests to feel comfortable. So it was a lot of knowing what the protocols were and knowing best practices, even if they weren't mandated at the time, and then introducing it to our team and ensuring consistency among our team and clarity in the messaging to our guests. We had to take a lot of amenities out of service, so no shuttle, no valet. People are very happy not to get in a shuttle, very happy not to have us get in their cars, but what happens to breakfast? And that went away for a little while. We went to a la carte, and then it went away, and we brought it back with grab and go, and that again has evolved. We're very excited. We open our kitchen up next week, and we start back with breakfast, and we're easing back into F&B rather than just opening it up and seeing what's going to happen. So we'll do it in phases like we've done other things. I think for us, the hardest part is making sure we're a small team right now, which is a good thing in some ways, not a great thing in some ways, but ensuring that what we're sharing with our team is clear and concise so that when they share it to a guest, it's clear and concise, because every traveler interprets their travel needs differently than the next, and they interpret the mandates and that's just human nature. We interpret it for whatever is best for us at that moment, and that might not be best for the masses. And then we have just cleaned and cleaned and cleaned and cleaned. I don't think I have ever in my entire career cleaned as much as I have in the last 4 months. So that is really the making sure that initial arrival into our space, whether it is someone coming into our building because they're coming in as a tenant, as a worker, as a guest, or just as someone who's visiting Starbucks, they feel safe and comfortable, and that we are a healthy space for them to be in.
That's awesome. And thank you for everything, Tara. I know that you guys specifically have been open this entire time. This is kind of I'm also going to go off script with you too. This is a personal check-in because you guys also were in the midst of a renovation when all of this started as well. So how have you guys been dealing with all of that? Did you have to put a pause on that, or have they still been able to continue with your renovation?
So it's a perfect time to renovate when nobody wants to be, when no one's in your rooms. So we are in our meeting space is out for the rest of the year. That was a very easy decision to make. We didn't have to rush to get it done and support a summer or fall or demands down there. So that just became super easy decision. The guest rooms, we didn't start until I believe the very beginning of June. So we missed those empty days of March, April, and May. And we'll just now, when we have some demand, we're not able to fill the hotel to 100%, but it's an education process every day because some of our contractors come from out of state, and I am not only managing my team, I'm managing a contractor team, and everybody has their own opinion of everything. So it's challenging, but it's a positive. We're really excited that come 2021, when we're all anticipating we'll be in a different situation with COVID, we'll be in a different situation with the hotel, and it's a positive both directions.
That's great. Well, you are in our thoughts, and so just keep fighting the good fight, Ms. Tarshis. Peggy, I'm going to jump back to Cash's question because since we're recording this and people will be watching it later, I don't know if the chat feature will be captured in that as well. So I want to make sure that gets addressed. Cash asked a really good question. Do visitor centers still have brochures? And you and Jody, thank you for jumping in on that. And thank you for being here today. Both tackled that, but if you wouldn't mind sharing that vocally so that in the event people can still catch that info.
Absolutely, happy to. And Jody, thank you for that reminder. Our visitor centers, the East Shore Drive Visitor Center, we have what we refer to as the 24-hour lobby that is accessible to visitors. There are limited numbers of brochures in there, our travel guides, the regional Finger Lakes guide, and that is something that we refill daily. Or not quite daily because we're not in the building daily, I guess. As frequently as some human is inside the building, we refill that area. The Downtown Visitor Center is located within the Tompkins Center for History and Culture, so there is no way for visitors to access that right now. And that will be closed at least until the fall after the Taughannock Overlook Visitor Center closes, we'll be able to reopen downtown. So therefore, there are no brochures available downtown. And then at the Taughannock Overlook, we have one of each brochure type that we would normally have on display. They're laminated. Each one is numbered as well as has a QR code attached. So the visitor will go through and look and decide what they want and tell our team the numbers, and then one of our team members will actually pull those brochures and provide those to the guest. They're laminated so that they can be easily sanitized by our team. There's extra cleaning and sanitizing protocols as we all are going through right now. And what Jody also added is we do have our travel guides available for bulk orders. So if any of you would like to have any of the Visit Ithaca travel guides in your business available for your guests and customers, we can absolutely get those to you. Our team is fulfilling on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And if you send an email to info@visitithaca.com, we'll get that order filled and get those travel guides to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Peggy, and thank you to your team. I know people appreciate the travel guides, and it's good to hear that you guys have taken steps and been very thoughtful in how to get those out and do it in a safe way. So this next question is kind of a meaty question. I want to make sure we have enough time for it. I feel like Chris Cuomo right now. This is about to be some hard-hitting stuff. So the question is, how are you dealing with navigating internal communications with your workforce and key stakeholders during a time like this, an unprecedented time, that's what we're all hearing, where we are collectively experiencing a public health crisis, a civil rights uprising, and an economic crisis simultaneously, okay? I'm telling you, it's like CNN right now, chamber style. So hard-hitting question, and Billy, I'm gonna have you kick us off on this one.
Okay, thank you. So to reiterate what Terry was saying about trying to watch the news every day, watching what Cuomo was saying, just trying to keep up with how things are changing and trying to keep up with the staff. And, you know, as everything changes every day, we're also letting them know this is what's going on and this is how we all need to adapt. Also trying to keep morale up with everyone, especially with on their side for the economic crisis and with everything that is going on. We just tried to keep up with them and just say, you know, we're all going to get through this together. Just as long as we work together, we'll all try to get through together.
Thank you, Billy. Let's throw it to Ms. Tarshis.
I'm going to mirror what Billy just said about the morale. Keeping everybody's morale and everybody positive is huge. But communication wise, it's probably the one and only time I will say I appreciate having a smaller team, because it definitely makes it easier to get the message or communicate whatever it may be, whether it's a changing protocol, whether it's something that we all need to know concerning a guest or concerning a tenant in our building. But whatever it is, it makes sharing that message and having the exact start of the message that I started with be the same message that the last person gets in that game of telephone. It makes it much easier. But we text chat groups, emails that everybody's on, but we see each other almost every day. We've tried very hard as managers to still maintain, even though we had long days, 2 days off during this time, but there was always a manager there. So it was always coming, I was always very comfortable with where the communication started with. I have to say, as I think we adapted quicker on the ground than any brand did, whether it was Hilton or whether it was Marriott or whether it was, you know, Wegmans. They had to adapt and then send it out globally, where a lot of times what was coming to us from our brand, we've already implemented and we were ready to go with before it became a national or global announcement. So I felt really good about the direction I was taking my team in. And I also felt that I had really good support from my team as we worked through this together.
Thank you, Terry. And thank you all for everything that you've been doing. I want to reiterate, you guys did respond quickly, responded right away. And again, kudos to you. You guys did a great job. Ms. Coleman.
Well, I think the term drinking from a fire hose never fit more appropriately than what we've been going through since the beginning of March. Trying to accept all of that information, trying to boil it down and interpret it sometimes, and get clarification, especially Billy, I feel my heart goes out to all of our restaurant and our craft beverage folks, because you have definitely all had to pivot constantly, and kudos to everybody there. I think trying to get that information, not just from the state and the federal government and the Department of Labor, but also from our campuses, all 3 of our campuses. We have that extra layer of impact because we are a college town and our colleges are our main employers, and understanding what their needs are, trying to be empathetic to their feelings and experience while taking that information to our tourism partners. Also checking in on our team. We all have gone through a lot, and we are going through it together, but this is a whole new thing. I've been doing this practically since the earth cooled, and I've never had this experience before. And I think making sure that each one of our team felt okay, felt supported, had the permission that if they needed to check out or whatever, that they could have that. And then ultimately with the civil unrest, making sure that our voice was authentic, because while we have our stakeholders who are local, we also have our visitors who are, our reason for being. And so making sure that we weren't just living in a vacuum, that we were acknowledging, sharing, empathizing, and supporting in an authentic way. It definitely, I guess, has been a big growth experience for all of us, I think.
Thank you, Peggy. Fred, let's wrap up on this one.
Sure. So I'm going to reiterate a lot of what's been said. Communication has been absolutely critical, and figuring out different ways to communicate, mass communicate, making sure that our messaging is consistent across the board among our senior management team, our park managers, and then down the line to our customers and park patrons has been, it's been challenging. But, one of the things that I'm really proud of is that as much as possible, we have a structure that allows our staff to be creative and suggest ideas. And we have a culture of somebody going, this doesn't quite feel right, or I saw this happen over here and I want to apply it over there. We are certainly taking advantage of best in class. And that extends across all of New York State parks. So we're drawing on some of the experience from some of the facilities downstate and sharing that. So that's been super, super valuable. I've personally been spending a lot more time in the field, getting out to facilities, sitting, touring facilities, being with managers, observing how people are engaging, how the social distancing is going. Our one-way hiking on the gorge trails is a different way of having people experience our parks. But it's been 7 days a week, pretty much straight up since March, and it's been that way for myself and most of my senior management team to pull off to this step. I think the big thing is we just take it one step at a time. And when we were sitting there managing all of the closings of various amenities in parks and then quickly having to reopen them, it was one step at a time. We're going to figure this out this time. And I got to just say, I got a great staff who have made that happen. I'm going to make a sales pitch here. For external communications, there's a brand new Parks app. So people should go and check out the New York State Parks Explorer app. It's in Google Play, it's in the App Store for Apple. You can sign up for parks and get notifications about parks that you love and go to frequently, find out if we're reaching capacity or not, know if there's a swim closure. Ultimately, you'll be able to get some really rich content programming on that as we develop future phases of this app. So good stuff.
And yes, Peggy Coleman is right. She just co-signed your sales pitch, Fred, by saying that people should also pick up a park pass while they're at it.
Thank you, Peggy.
Yeah, my family and I, we will be getting one now that we're making more trips out to the park as well. So good plug, Peggy, good plug. I also just want to kind of echo everything that's been said here and give Tompkins County as a whole just a huge shout out. As a newer resident to the area, moving here from San Francisco, my family and I agree wholeheartedly that there is nowhere else in this country I think I would rather be right now than in Tompkins County. Being able to see not just the communication behind the scenes working at the chamber, but how this community has come together to tackle all three of these areas in regards of public health, the economic crisis, and the civil rights uprising that's happening. Ithaca has just been great. And I want us to continue to be great. And I want us to continue to work together and rise together and thrive during this time. And again, just a huge shout out to everyone that's working in this industry. We are an attraction for people to want to come here for all of those reasons that I just listed out, that we are a great community and we're safe. And we've been doing a good job of taking care of each other and people that come here. So just continue to fight the good fight. And as someone who's new to this area and been welcomed with open arms, thank you for everyone for all the hard work and dedication and just continuing to make this such a great place. I tell it to every one of my friends back home who call, because if you don't live in New York State, for a lot of Californians, they see New York City and think that that's all of New York State. So I get calls and texts and emails from people every time Cuomo makes a new announcement and it's like, are you guys okay? Is everything all right? And I'm like, yeah, we're great. We're actually doing really good. So a huge part of that is to thank you all. So thank you so much. We did have a good question that came in earlier, and I want to make sure that we don't miss it. It was directed to Terry directly, but I think it would be applicable to maybe if Fred or Peggy or Billy wanted to jump in on this as well. The question was, can you talk a little bit about the travel advisory mandate from Cuomo? And are you able to track who's coming from where and if they have to quarantine? So since it was directed to Terry, if you want to maybe tackle that one first, Terry, and if anyone else wanted to chime in, that'd be great.
So we are not tracking. It is not mandated that it is not our due diligence to track at this point in time. And I do have an incline that if we don't see something change, I do think that it will become something that is required of businesses more so than the ownership is on the individual. And when someone asks us, we have the mandate, we have it printed, we have it available. It is right at check-in time, and we are asking each guest at check-in to acknowledge that there is a mandate and these are the states that are on there. And that is as far as we are taking it in our business.
Awesome, good answer. Did anyone else want to chime in on that? Their perspectives of how they manage people coming in from out of state? Mr. Bond, see your hand going up.
Yeah, so we're doing that at check-in for our camping reservations. We're really not in a position to be able to monitor the day use of the facilities and check in with people. But when folks are coming to camp or stay in a cabin or a cottage, they're asked a whole series of questions, about 5 questions about where have they been before. And then leading up to that on a daily basis, our staff in Albany is contacting anybody who has a reservation from one of the quarantine states, alerting them to the fact. So it's kind of a 2-check process for us. 1, notification out of Albany that you're not in New York State unless you've quarantined properly, and then 2, a check-in at the actual park itself.
Awesome. Mr. Katz, hey Mike, how you doing? He had a follow-up question for that, Fred, and in it, he states, do you turn them away if they come from out of state? And I'm assuming that's to camp.
Yes, we have had to do that.
Okay. And can we apply that to you as well, Terry? Do you guys turn people away if they're coming from one of the banned states?
We do not ask if they're coming from the banned state. We ask that they acknowledge and that they are following the mandate as asked of them.
Gotcha.
Can I just chime in real quick? Because obviously with Terry, like Fred, we're housing guests too, but the hard thing about that is because even though it's on their driver's license, it does not mean that they've been in those states. They could be in New York City this entire time, or they are from New York State and they were just in Florida. So there is a lot of, just because it's on their address doesn't mean that they were just in.
Yeah, I'm proof of that. I still have my California license as well. And I hadn't even thought about that when I use it, that people may be looking at me kind of crazy, like, what the hell are you doing here? So valid point, Ryan. Thank you. Yes, Terry. And then Peggy.
I actually had the guest that is like, because you asked for an idea, check-in, who was like, well, so I moved. And I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't need the story. They already have the story down.
Yeah. All right, Peggy, what were you going to share?
So there's a few things. The airports are under more restrictions as far as enforcement because of the requirement to have guests complete those forms. The first thing I want to begin this, I guess it's too late to say to begin my comment with, is we have had an uptick in Tompkins County of positive cases. However, they were not from visitors. So I think it's really important that everybody knows that and remembers that. And if you look at the Tompkins County Health Department, they will reinforce that. It was not visitors who are causing this increase. Many people, David is an example, who've relocated here, but out of their identification does not say New York State. We have many students who never left, who are from all over. There are many people in our neighbors to the south. I live in Elmira. There are many folks, you see Texas and California plates all over the place because those folks work in the gas industry and they've not changed their licenses over. And so I think we do need to be mindful while we're really passionate about keeping our community safe. We also have to remember that these folks, most of them have been here all this time. And so it would be like me saying, Terry, I know you went to Ontario County, so you need to quarantine, or calling the police on Terry. That wouldn't be right and it wouldn't be fair, no matter how well intended. At the visitor center at Taughannock, we do have a QR code that identifies, that brings visitors right to those states that are on the required quarantine time. We also, when we send out our travel guides to people who request that information, we have an insert that goes into those, as well as on our COVID page. So we try to communicate as far in advance to prepare folks. And we've had guests reach out to us saying, we want to come, but now we can't. So I think the word is getting out, but it is not on our team to enforce it.
Awesome. Thank you, Peggy. Fun fact, August the 17th, I do have an appointment at the DMV to switch over my license and my registration to New York State. So maybe I'll host like a little virtual ceremony and I'll do like a time capsule and bury my California license somewhere here in Ithaca. So stay tuned for that. I'll post that on the Chamber's website.
And register to vote.
Yes, register to be because I was going to do absentee, but it looks like I will be able to make it in time to vote for the New York State election. So thank you for that reminder, Fred. All right, we got one more question and we're going to wrap things up. We've talked about a lot today, so let's set all that aside for a moment and talk about what excites you or makes you optimistic about your industry. Think about where things were a few months ago and where you hope to be in a year, and share opportunities and innovations that excite you the most. And for this one, we're going to start with Fred. Again, we're ending on optimism, things that we hope will be happening in the next year or so.
Right on. Go out on a high note. You know, I've got complete confidence in the Finger Lakes. We've been a national destination for over a century. We've been on the global stage as a destination for the last 15 or 20 years. We've got a great product. It's highly integrated and it's built on collaboration. So when you take a look at how the tourism industry works together, small businesses working with chambers, working with other businesses, putting packages together. You know, I had the experience of leading the Convention and Visitors Bureau through post 9/11 and through the 2008 recession, and we've got a great product to offer up to 60% of the population of North America. You know, if this is going to shift back into drive status, we have a lot of potential customers that we can be delivering, you know, world-class experiences, memories to. So I've got all that optimism, and I think we've got a really good basis and baseline to be operating from. You know, I like to call it competitive cooperation, and we do the finest job of that. So
that's great, Fred. Thank you so much. Peggy Coleman, you're a beacon of optimism, so I'm excited to hear your response to this question.
I am just so cheerful, it's frightening, right? I am so excited, and definitely I would mirror everything that Fred just said. You know, we're in a beautiful place. We have all this beautiful outdoor experience for people to share. We have people who love us. They love repeat visitation. So we've got a lot of things in our favor to begin with, and just to see the comments of people who want to come, the pent-up demand, people are literally at the door with their bags packed, and as soon as their states are open, they are coming. So I'm very positive. and very optimistic that our future is going to be great. And I think the economic development project of the conference center in downtown is going to be a great tool to help our community, not just the hospitality industry, but the whole community. So I'm very optimistic.
That's great. Thank you, Peggy. Ms. Terry Tarshis.
So everything that has already been said, I will echo, but our nature and our culture within human beings is exploring and gathering. So I know it's coming back. I know people are going to travel, and I'm looking forward to, and I'm very excited to see how we keep drawing people to our region. And Peggy is right. They were standing at the borders with their bags packed, like ready to come as soon as they could. Location, location, location. We have it. It's here year round. And I will say I'm having a lot of fun watching what our neighbors at Greek Peak are doing, because they continue to just, like, every time there's an obstacle put up, they've got a new way to social distance and watch concerts. They've got their outdoor, they keep blowing it out of the park for me. So I'm just staying positive, watching that and knowing that we'll keep bringing them in. We build it, they come. Conference center, they'll come. Build the outdoor theater, they'll come. I love that. And so that's what I'm looking forward to.
Awesome. Thanks, Terry. All right, Billy, take us home.
All right. Well, we know for dining out, the perceptions of eating out in restaurants are probably forever changed. Keeping distance. We're just hoping that we can try to stay ahead of everything with keeping research up and trying to just invent new ways of how to keep people happier. We're looking forward to next year being a much more comfortable place for everyone, everywhere, not just in the restaurants. But we're just hoping that we can just provide the community with great service, and we just hope everything just relaxes and gets better in the future. We will just do our very best that we can to keep providing that.
Awesome. Thanks, Billy. Again, it was really important to end our questions today on a positive note. If there's one thing I would say about the residents of Tompkins County and the businesses here is that that one word would be resilient. So knowing that we are all facing this adversity together, and what did you say, Fred? It's cooperative competition? Is that how you describe it?
Cooperative competition, yeah.
Cooperative competition. I think that's kind of a really great mantra to think about how we as a tourism industry all work together here in this area. There is some competition here, but we're all doing it together. We're all rising together. We're all striving together and surviving this together. So I too believe that we will be able to bounce back super strong. I think that people are being kind of forced to think in some creative and innovative ways. You mentioned Greek Peak, Terry, but honestly, to your credit, all of you have had to think of new and creative and interesting ways to pivot. You guys are all at this point professional ballerinas, in my opinion, the way that you've been able to pivot and turn and shift at a moment's notice to make things happen for this community. So thank you so much. Thank you to everyone in the call for being here. Did we have any additional questions for anyone? At this time, I'll save people the trouble. Is it Ala? Am I saying your name right? I'm gonna unmute you. Is it Ala?
Yes, Ala.
Awesome. Ala, feel free to unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, so the question in terms of like financial survival for some of the businesses, especially like smaller hotels and stuff, how do any of the panelists could answer it? Like, how do you, there are fewer guests, so definitely there's falling revenue, and with some of the extra costs, how do you manage, and is it really worth it at the end of the day? Is it something like, how do you deal with it? I don't know if I made my question clear.
No, I think that was a great question. I'll kind of reiterate it because you wrote it out really well too. With fewer customers and guests, there is falling revenue. And on the other hand, you have extra cleaning and extra checks and balances and some costs that are rising as a result. So how are businesses in this industry coping with that in terms of profitability And is it worth it at the end of the day? Good question.
David, I have one. What can we expect our lives to be like when the students come back?
Good question. All right, so I'm gonna let everybody address Allah's question first, and then I have your question, Ron, to go next. And again, before you guys start answering, I recognize that it's 1 o'clock. If anyone needs to drop off, feel free to do so. Again, this will be recorded, but our panelists will, I'm gonna steal a couple more minutes of you guys' time to address some of these last minute questions.
So Terry, do you want to go first from your property's perspective, or do you want me to go first?
Go for it, and then I'll branch off from you.
Okay. What many of our properties did during New York's pause was purposely close down to try to conserve as much revenue as possible. Some of the aid opportunities like the PPP, if people applied for that loan, that became a way to bring some staff back. But unfortunately, the timing of that was earlier. And so paying staff, but not having the guests to come in, but still having those expenses of cleaning, sanitizing, etc. I think it's a matter of stopping and looking at what is your new, and the term is nut, and I'm sorry, I'm not coming up with the right information for you, Allah, but I will do my best. You know, we know what the minimum is that we need to make to cover. And are there ways that you can look at the way your business is trending? We know typically that weekends are busy, and then Sunday night through Thursday night are slower. So if there is a way that you can adjust even your staffing and the reservations, maybe you close out your system for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday nights, and you're only taking reservations Thursday, Friday, Saturdays. And that may seem counterintuitive, but if you can reduce your expenses when you know you're normally slow and focus those costs on when you're going to have dollars and people through the doors, that may be one strategy to help you. I think partnering with other local businesses too, that there's value added that will not cost you anything, but your guests will feel like they're getting more. That may be an opportunity, as well as reaching out to us. We're here. And so if there's a way that we can learn more about your property, and then as we have media requests coming out, or if there's a way we can spin some of our social posts out that can include you to raise the awareness of your business up higher, we're working hard to do that. So I would encourage you to not be shy about reaching out to the CVB team either. We want to help. We don't want to see anyone close. We want to support everybody through this, however we can.
Awesome. You were going to share some insights as well, Terry?
Sure. So, I mean, every hotel has fixed expenses that no matter what you do, you're going to have to pay these bills. And then you also have fixed labor. And what we did is we made the decision very early on to reduce our labor. And we furloughed we furloughed a very large amount of people. I think before the other hotels in Ithaca furloughed that many people. And I might be speaking out of turn, but that was just the gist I got. We went from 77 employees to 8 in 2 days. So it was very quick to cut expenses where we could. I know exactly what it cost me, you know, the cost per occupied room. I know what it cost to sell that room, from selling it to turning it over to put it back into service. And then there's all of the extras that hotels do. My shuttle doesn't run anymore. And that is, you know, it's individuals who are still out of a job, but it's also an expense that my guests don't pay for. It's complimentary. So we're not running a shuttle. There's a lot of extras that we did that we're not doing, but at the same point in time, guests don't want those extras because it involves being in close contact, or it involves a lot of touching, or on the staff side to put that, you know, reception out, or what it might be. So a lot of expense was cut out for us. And then I fought very, very, very hard between the state and the local health department to get my pool back open, because I knew that was an amenity that would bring me more business. And I was a thorn in a few people's sides, because it was an argument between the state saying we didn't shut pools down and the health department saying the state shut them down. So we went back and forth until I could finally get my pool open. And once my pool was open, I had an amenity that I had the same labor to run that pool, whether it was closed or open. But I had a selling feature that gave me an advantage to bring more people into my hotel. And from there, it's just been one thing after the other. And we hit the season that's bringing guests into our hotel right now. So it's September that I am worried about. It's December that I'm worried about, because those guests that travel then aren't going to be coming this year. So we have to get creative, and we have to start looking for guests to fill our fall and winter months in a different way, or with a different guest or type of guest than I've had in the past. But I do think it's worth it. You asked if it was worth it, and I don't know anything different than this industry. I know a lot of people they're making that heartfelt decision. Do I leave this industry and look for take my talents elsewhere? And my toolbox and myself are not ready to do that. I'm here. I've been in it a long time, and I have a lot of faith that it will be a different industry for us, but it's the industry that I want to continue to see myself in. So I personally think, yes, it's worth it. And I will have a stronger team, and we will be in a better place, even though it's a different place, 6 months and 18 months from now.
Awesome. And so I'm gonna pivot just for a second. Ron, don't think that I'm gonna ignore your question. I want to hear from Billy on this topic, but I'm gonna allow your question to be a little bit different, because Ritza had a really great follow-up for you specifically. Ritza said that she's curious, how did you adjust your margins for Chow and for Boatyard with limited, I guess more specifically for Chow, with limited indoor seating, as there are restaurants that are still unable to open since delivery and pickup isn't enough to keep their businesses going?
Right. And then that all sort of ties together. We had to make the horrible decision to actually close Boatyard instead of doing takeout. The same as a lot of other people. We knew it wasn't going to be feasible for us with labor costs and keeping the electricity on and only doing takeout. Where Chow was a little bit easier for that. We originally were open from 12 to 8 every day. And then we had to adjust our hours knowing that lunch wasn't as busy. So we went down to serving only dinner time. So you have to cut the cost where you can, knowing labor was an issue. And the managers are stepping up and doing more than they used to. Now they're the frontline people taking the orders and helping to cook the orders. Whatever we need to get done, we do. So staffing levels had to reduce. Even with doing 50% dine-in, we're only doing 2 servers a night, just because we're not that busy like we used to be. So you just have to cut costs wherever you can. Unfortunately, we need to make the decision to raise costs a little bit for the prices on the menu. They didn't go up drastically, but they had to go up somewhat just to help cover the cost of everything that's going on, new cleaning procedures, everything that everyone is dealing with. But cutting other costs, and it's difficult for people who can't reopen yet. And I feel very bad for them. Chow's takeout was very easy to do. We have been doing takeout for a while. That just ballooned for us, knowing that people were supporting us. And we got many people thanking us, saying, thank you for being open, while we were open just doing takeout, or the people who wanted to come in and dine inside. But yeah, it was all about just trying to cut costs wherever we can.
Good answer. Okay, so we are going to end with this final question. And this one is kind of like the elephant in the room, right? how does everyone feel, or what is your stance right now? And I guess let's frame it a little better, if that's okay, Ron. What are we feeling positives about the students returning? And what are maybe some of our concerns about the students returning back to the area? Is that okay? Is that a good way to ask the question so we can get some better answers? Looking at, with school getting ready to return and reopen, and Ithaca College and Cornell and TC3 sharing their plans, what are you guys' thoughts on the reopening of school and students returning to the area with those plans in place? Concerns and things to be excited about. Dealer's choice. Who would like to go first on this one?
I would actually like to go last.
Well played, Peggy. All right, Billy and Terry, who's going to grace us with their first take on this? Hot take.
Awesome. It's a mixed feeling for me as the community member. I am worried and wondering what will happen with our local community, but I have really good faith in our 3 schools and the universities and what they're doing, and the amount of time and effort that they have put into putting their plans together, and how they're bringing the students back, and the level of testing and the mindfulness they have behind bringing their students back into their own community. So I'm trusting that. I know they are the experts in it. I'm also I'm a parent of a college student who is going back, and I have had I've had the insight from her perspective, but also from her school, which has been completely different than what our 3 universities are doing. So I will say our universities are doing more, and that makes me very happy. And I'm looking forward to having our students back. I am looking forward to seeing them return and feeling that vibe that we always have in the fall when they come back. It will be a different vibe, but I'm looking forward to it because it means we're moving forward.
Awesome. Well said, Terry. All right, Billy. Peggy drew the last slot, so you're going second.
Okay, no problem. And everyone has their own personal opinion versus the professional opinion on it. This area, we need the students around. We need that financial impact to the community. We're hoping that the colleges and they seem to be taking all the necessary precautions to make a safer environment for everyone. So we're hopeful that everything is just going to be on the up and up and just keep going in a better field. The students have, the financial impact is just too great. And we're hoping that we can all just, that the right decisions are being made and the right procedures are being taken.
Awesome. All right, Ms. Coleman.
Okay. Well, I don't want to go back in time ever because it has been ugly. But if we were to look at March 6th, which was the date that Cornell announced that there would be no outside groups meeting on campus, we were impacted by this crisis, our community, long before our state was shut down and we were all on pause. And during that week, almost 2 weeks before the governor created New York Pause, our community lost probably close to $20 million of business in the hospitality industry alone. We can't survive without our students. That's the reality. Many, many businesses will close and they won't be able to come back. And that would be a crisis to our community. I know, because believe me, I am literally like, why can't they tell us? Why can't they tell us? It's so frustrating. But I also know that all 3 of our campuses, they are working so hard. They know the impact that they have on our community. They understand we are hurting partially because of their actions to keep us safe. we've been very fortunate to have the expertise of our 3 campuses. And quite honestly, our state health department has been relying on a lot of the information from the experts from Cornell. You know, I'm afraid. I am somebody who is far over 29 and may have people in my world who have compromised health. Of course I'm nervous, but we can't be fearful forever. And if our community is going to rebound, and I know we are, we need those students here. We need the campuses engaged with us. I think the idea and the plan that they're going to have the students leave us from November 23rd until February 9th, not that those dates are burned into my brain, but they are, is a smart move to try to keep us safe. And I think it does, though, create that new challenge for our industry. Okay, winter is always horrible, but now it gets to be extra horrible. So we need to just stop, take a deep breath, and figure out a creative new way to fill that, and trust that those students want to be here as much as we want them and need them to be here. They don't want to have to go through that remote learning again. It was not a good experience for most of them. And so I firmly believe they're going to do their darndest. You know, they are kids, but they're still going to do their darndest to be responsible so that they can stay here and have that college experience. So that is the end of my soliloquy, and thank you for your patience.
Awesome. This just in, to give everyone a little bit of heads up, I am currently in discussions right now, Gary Ferguson and myself, with Susan Riley from Cornell and Kate Suffren. Kate is the campus community liaison. We are working with them to put together a forum for Cornell to be able to speak to some of the concerns that the community may have about the students' return and their plan. They're putting together like an 8-person panel with some of the higher ups at Cornell University to discuss exactly what their plan is. The date that we're looking at right now for that will be August the 11th. So stay tuned. Once I get more of those, we literally just started talking about this yesterday, but once I get more of those details hammered out, we'll be sharing that information on the Chamber's website so that you'll hear it directly from Cornell about some of the thoughts and feelings around the students' return. But again, thank you everyone for your insights on sharing and answering that question. We are over time by like 18 minutes now. So to quickly wrap things up, is Carly Hansen still here? Carly, are you still around?
I am. Hi, everyone.
Hey, there she is. In true networking at noon fashion, Carly, I did want to give away 2 bottles of Sheldrake Rosé. For the sake of time.
Thank you, I accept.
For the sake of time, Carly, I was gonna see if you could help me. I have numbers here listed 1 through 19 of people that are here on the call today. Can you help me with some number selections?
I'd love to.
Awesome. I'm gonna do 2 numbers at random, Carly. So what's the first one that you have? Let's see if we can give away some bottles of wine.
Let's do number 3.
Number 3. That is gonna go to Miss Cash Wiggins. Typically we say that you have to be here, but since this is all virtual anyway, we'll acknowledge that Cash is here in spirit. So I will put Cash down as a winner of a bottle of Sheldrake Rosé. And let's do 1 more number. Keep the good times going, Carly.
All right, let's do 11.
Number 11. She is also not here, Miss Jody LaPierre from.
Oh, no, David, sorry, and disqualified staff member.
Okay, I put a couple of staff members in here today, Peggy, but I will let you override and we'll pick 1 more, Carly.
If I can't have it, she can't have it.
I'll take care of the staff separately. This is not on the table.
Peggy always takes care of us. How about 9, David?
All right, number 9 is Miss Lisa Sparks. Is Lisa still here? Is Lisa still here?
Yes, she's here.
I'm still here.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. All right.
Thank you.
Lisa, I have you down as our second winner of a bottle of Sheldrake Rosé. Again, I want to say thank you so much to the panel. Fred had to dip out a little early. He had a meeting that started right at 1, but he still wanted to be here today. So a huge thank you to Fred, a huge thank you to Terry, a huge thank you to Billy, and again, Peggy Coleman, thank you for being here. A huge shout out again to our series sponsors, CFCU Community Credit Union, the Hilton Garden Inn, Sheldrake, One Step Coaching and Consulting, and Schwab Walker. Thank you guys so much for your resilience. Again, I saw that Ryan and Sarah pulled this out, that Ithaca is surviving, striving, and rising together. Sarah went ahead and made that into a hashtag. That's pretty cool. But we are all in this together. We're all overcoming this together, and we will all be here for one another, cooperatively competing with one another. So again, thank you for your time. If you guys are having additional questions or any follow-ups up for anything that you heard here today, feel free to email me. And that concludes our networking at noon for July. So thank you guys. Have a good one. Be safe.
Bye.
Hi, everyone.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.